Hey everyone, welcome in. We're going to give folks just a couple of minutes to trickle in. In the meantime, I'd love if you could share in the chat where you're listening in from and what you're hoping to learn from our conversation today. So we've got Iowa in the house, Phoenix, Pennsylvania, Columbus, oh, Switzerland, fun, Dallas. I'm in San Antonio as well, just outside, London, Baltimore, Paris, Amsterdam, Memphis. We've got people from all over. This is awesome. So fun. All right, well, we are going to get started. Thanks so much for joining today for The Future is Female. I'm Molly Evola. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Customer.io, and we're hosting this conversation in honor of Women's Entrepreneurship Day. And we couldn't think of anything better than celebrating some women who are building their own companies in moving markets. So to put this conversation into a bit of perspective, until 1974, women couldn't open a bank account without a man's signature. That's only 50 years ago. Women make up 43% of the workforce, but only hold 31% of leadership positions globally. And for every 100 men promoted to manager, only 81% of women get, or 80, only 81 women get that promotion as well. So it's revolutionary, I think, still to have your own business, being a woman and building in this space. So that leads me to our three incredible speakers today. We have Nomiki Petrola, founder and CEO at Theana. We have Lachey Daniels, founder and CEO at Bofu AI, and Brianna Doe, author and founder at Verbatim. We're going to go behind the scenes and we'll talk through what they're building, the real challenges they faced along the way, and what they hope to accomplish moving forward. And if you have questions during the chat, pop those into the questions tab. And we're going to get started with some intros. Nomiki, I'll put it to you first. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's your business superpower?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nomiki. I am the founder and CEO of Theana. Theana is an all-in-one startup platform helping women tech founders go from idea to $1 million in revenue. My superpower is community. Everything that we do is core to community and helping more women collaborate and build businesses. And a quick stat for everyone here in honor of Women's Entrepreneurship Day. In 2019, women-led businesses accounted for 29% of startups. But as of last year, we now represent 49%, almost half, which is a 68% increase in growth. So keep building your businesses. We are making waves.
That is amazing. Brianna, would you like to go next?
Yes, so I'm Brianna Doe, founder of Verbatim. We are an influencer marketing agency. We also do fractional marketing leadership and fractional operations leadership. And like you mentioned, I'm an author. My book, The Unapologetic Professional, came out last week.
Amazing. And over to you, Lachey.
Hi, so my name is Lachey, and I am founder at bofu.ai. I run a education company all about teaching marketers how to do content strategy and kind of how I've built a career in that over the past 10 plus years. Started consulting 2 years ago. And yeah, I guess superpower, resilience for sure. There were a lot of things I would not be able to do if I was not resilient. And I heard that was one of the questions. So I'm excited to dive into that because it's definitely something us as women in the space, we need a lot of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all for sharing. I would love to dig into each of your origin stories as well. Obviously, being a founder does not happen overnight. I feel like there's typically a moment that maybe a job or a frustration that makes you think, I need to build this myself. Lachey, I'll start with you. What were you doing right before you started Bofu? What made you think this is time, I need to build this?
So the pain was what I was getting paid when I was in house. I could not break $75,000 a year with over, at that point, 6-7 years of experience doing the same thing. And this could come down to a lot of different things. It could have came to me not opening my mouth enough. It could have came to just the type of position I was applying for. But the pain was definitely not feeling like I was being paid what I was worth. I kind of let the job market tell me what my worth was, but there was something in me that was like, no, I feel like I'm worth at least a little bit more than that. Like, why can't I break this 100K ceiling? Come to find out, I was worth a lot more than that. So sometimes that intuition that's in you, that's like, maybe there's something here. Maybe I am worth more. Spoiler, you are. So I would say lean into that and follow that. But that was the thing that was eating at me, just knowing I was worth more than what people was telling me that I was.
Yeah, I think I felt that as well. I get that completely. Nomiki, how about you? What were you thinking before you started Theana?
Starting Theana was a culmination of events. I've been in 0 to 1 for my whole career, and 12 of those years was actually working for wealthy men. No hate to any of them, they were wonderful. But I hit my ceiling my 12th year as a head of product at a company, and there was no way I was ever going to be co-founder, and it was never going to be mine, despite all the work that I put in prior to that company even coming to fruition. And unfortunately, a life event happened that caused me to think twice about what was I doing with my life. And when I left, my bubble was popped, and I learned that I was in a bubble and didn't realize how much disparity there was for women in tech entrepreneurship specifically. And so that caused me to go down a major rabbit hole and quit my job and decided, well, let me see if I can help more women build companies. And that grew so fast that I was like, oh, this is a huge need. How do I build and use my skills of product to actually build something that does this at scale? And so Theana was really born from a culmination of events that led to this moment of, it's time to actually do what I'm excellent at and feel pride in doing it and lead without feeling like I'm stepping on someone else's toes.
I love that. Brianna, how about you?
Yeah, I was working as a director of demand gen at a fintech startup right before I launched Verbatim. And candidly, I felt like I was just stuck in this cycle of burnout. I would start a new role, love it for the first 2 or 3 months, and then realize, oh, my workload is one, kind of like what Lachey mentioned, I should be paid a lot more. And also, I'm doing the job of 4 people. Am I choosing the wrong roles? Am I not asking the right questions when I interview? Like, what is the missing piece here? And I was just sick of feeling unhappy. I felt like there has to be more than just doing this for the next 50 years of my life. So I hired a career coach with the intention of kind of understanding my own professional blind spots. Like, okay, how do I manage up more effectively? How do I become a better employee? And she asked me a couple of questions on the first call, and she goes, okay, well, from everything you're saying, it sounds like you don't want to work for anyone else. It sounds like you're going to work for yourself. And it sounds like you know what you want to build. So we can either move forward with what you hired me for, or we can start planning out your corporate exit. And I thought about it for about 3 seconds and then said, yeah, let's start planning it out. And I never looked back.
That's amazing. What is the moment that you realized, like, I have to take this leap? Is there like a specific moment that any of y'all remember, like that you knew, okay, I'm going to build right now? What gave you the courage, I guess, to get to that point?
I had 2 very specific events. One, my daughter was super sick, and it was made you rethink. When you go through a traumatic life event, your life just changes, and everything you thought you knew just drastically is like flipped upside down. So that was like my first event where thankfully she's healthy, but now I'm like, how did I see my life before that? And everything I see now is just in a different light. And then the second one of like actually building, I hit 6 figures in like a few months, and I was like, what the heck? I'm like, this is such a big problem that the financial implication made me realize that like it's so needed, and it was actually working, that I had to do it. So it was a couple events that were inflections to the next step. And I'm kind of in this space now where I'm like, I know another event's coming. Like, where is it going to come from and hit me in the face? But now I welcome those events because it makes me see things in a different light.
That's amazing. Lachey, Brianna, anything to share there?
There's this quote, I'm sure you've all heard it, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but you only change when the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change, or something like that. That's how I felt in my career. I like I said, I was working in tech. I mean, I don't think I have to explain here what tech has looked like for the past couple of years and how, tumultuous it's been as an industry. And I kept seeing my colleagues get laid off. I kept seeing my coworkers get laid off and see my own workload increase. And I just reached a point where I realized I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. And if that wasn't working in house, figure out what that would be instead.
Yeah. I got tired of being depressed, straight up. Like I was just like, there was this self-sabotaging rabbit hole of like, you feel sorry for yourself, and then because you feel sorry for yourself, you feel sorry for yourself, and it was just this never-ending sort of black hole. And for me, I was just like, I don't want to be a statistic, like I had my first child at like, I think 19 or 20, and I was living in Baltimore and a lot of other things. And I'm like, I am on the path to being a statistic, and I don't want to be that. Maybe on the outside I was, but I was never a statistic in my head. Like everything that's happening now has already happened in my head several times. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was like, I know I deserve a life better than what my current circumstances are. And to the point that Brianna made of like, the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change. I was just tired of the same thing. Like it's painful either way. You just got to choose your hard.
Yeah.
There's things you have
Yeah.
to go through building a business, but then there's also things you have to go through continuing to be depressed. And I would rather go through what I'm going through now than what I was going through back then. So I think it's just about becoming self-aware and understanding that it's going to be hard. You just need to be self-aware enough to decide what hard you want to choose.
And I think you also need to crave that feeling of discomfort, like especially when it comes to owning a business. I mean, or even just going for that promotion or whatever the case may be. Like you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You need to be comfortable with the idea that you're not going to know everything. You need to be comfortable asking questions. I've gotten to a point in my career, and maybe you two can relate, or you three can relate. Like I look for moments to be challenged, and I look for moments to learn. And that's, in my opinion, that's the point you need to get to if you want to shift your career in a meaningful way.
That's amazing. I think along with this personal challenge that you face, I think there's a lot of systemic and societal challenges that women have to face too. And I think we look at marketing teams and they're full of talented women, but when you look at the leadership roles or founders or other funded companies, those numbers can drop off quite a bit. So I want to talk a little bit about like why that is maybe, and what are some things we could do about it. So I'll start broad. Why do you think that marketing attracts so many women in the first place? Are there characteristics that kind of pull us into this space?
I think it has a lot to do with our creative beings too. I mean, there's probably more black and white answers to that, but in terms of how we think, how we operate, we're thinking outside of the box, we're being creative, and we want to test new things. And I think marketing is a lot about, we're going to test something and be creative and go balls to the walls and like really put something out there and like use that data to learn from it, and then maybe come up with some systems in place. And I think women thrive in that space of like really wanting to test and be creative and all those ideas and actually putting them out there into the world. And I think we thrive there personally.
I think a big piece of it is empathy too. Like, not to say men don't, have empathy, but I think just to a different extent, women bring that into the conversation. Like if you just look at female friendships or like sisterhood, it's just empathy is just interwoven into all of our relationships. And with that comes a certain level of self-awareness. And I think with marketing, you do have to know how to read people. You do need to know what they're saying when they're not saying it, like what they're afraid to say out loud. And I think women are typically just, more geared that way.
Yeah, just Brianna, spot on. Like there's there's a sort of nurturing energy that women give off that men don't quite. It's almost like with women, it's more of a how can I help you nurturing energy. With men, it's more of like a competitive type of thing. Can I get this before this person does this? It's a whole founder bro type of vibe, but I just think women's energy is just different. There's I don't know, that energy is just different. And I think that's the type of energy that a lot of organizations need. Um, Women understand women. Like, I think everything from like having children, all of this plays a role in that. We know how to multitask really well, which is something that you need to do if you are a marketer. I just think it's certain things that we are exposed to that puts us in a prime position for these types of roles. Yeah.
I think combining for marketing, when you're combining nurturing and empathy, we genuinely want to help. And so we're putting ourselves in positions that we're like, we are going to be so ingrained to make sure that every email I write or every text message I send is with the intention of how can I support you rather than what's the data I'm going to get out of putting these types of words together, right? So it's meaningful and impactful because we care. And that's not to say that men don't care, absolutely. But I find that women thrive here too because we're combining all three of those components to get good data, but by driving it through a deeper place and not just a metric.
And you know what
100%.
else too? I think speaking technically, like a lot of marketing is geared towards a male demographic, kind of similar to Hollywood, right? Most movies, Hollywood filmmakers believe they need to gear it towards the male audience if they want to see the box office numbers. There's an entire demographic out there that's really not being marketed to. And so, kind of to both of your points, women can come in and speak to that audience that's overlooked in so many areas, which I think we can just see in the numbers. So.
Yeah, I think, where do y'all think the kind of drop off then happens with women in those leadership positions? Is it at promotion cycles in the workplace? Is it like funding access when you're raising funds? Is it something else? What do you think is going on there?
Well, just like funding and, my organization's small, but just like fundraising, people invest in people that look like them. And if the majority of the people and CEOs are men, they invest in who look like them. It's the same exact thing with funding. And the circular effect keeps happening because they're investing in people that look like them. There's bias already that's intrinsic. And I think that's part of the problem. I'm sure there's plenty of others, but at least using my experience in, building software and seeing venture, that's a big problem.
Yeah, I think it's all systemic. I mean, on one hand, you see a woman get passed over for the promotion, and probably one of two things happened. She went for the promotion and was turned down, or she didn't because she was afraid to speak up or didn't think she was skilled enough or didn't think she had the expertise. I think both of those stem from something we were either taught as women, like be humble, stay quiet, you need 10 years more experience before you can go for this. Or to your point too, like they just went for the person that looked like them, that they felt more comfortable promoting. I think on one hand, yes, like I meet so many talented, amazing women who minimize or undermine their own expertise and their own talent when they bring to the table. At the same time, even if we speak up, are we going to be seen as like aggressive? Are we going to be seen as we're striving for something that we're not ready for, even if we are? I think there are just so many layers to it.
There's definitely a hierarchy for sure. To Nomiki's point, like now that I think back to when I was in house, every opportunity I was denied by was somebody that did not look like me. And now I'm like, okay, now the pieces are starting to come together a little bit. But I think to her point, it's like, yeah, people invest in people that look like them, whether it's a venture capitalist, whether it's your boss. And being in the B2B space, I'm around a lot of people that do not look like me. So on one hand, it's like, is the playing field leveled? Am I starting back here where other people get to start right here? Am I going to have to work 2 or 3 times as hard to get the same type of opportunities as my counterparts? And that's something that that was a realization I probably had to come to when I first started this, but honestly, I did not care. I was, again, that pain of staying the same. I was like, whatever I have to do it, it'll get done. And I also think to myself, like, the same things that I'm going through, somebody else is going to go through, or somebody else is going through. So why not be that person that breaks through and sparks that change?
Mhm.
I love that. There's a really great question that we have from Alex here. What skills did you need to work on to be seen as equals to your male counterparts?
Are we seen as equals? I think to, Lachey's point of view is like, you have to stop giving a shit what people think about you and just kind of lean into your own power. And give yourself a stage that you own without having someone to give you permission to have that stage. So I know my skills are better in some ways of my male counterparts, but I don't compare myself to them, because what's the point? Like, I'm self-competitive. I'm not competing against, the tech bros. Well, in some spaces maybe, but generally I'm competing with myself. Can I do better than I did last week and the month before and the year before? And if I keep increasing the stage for myself and the ladder and climbing my own ladder of, hey, I can do this, I'm capable of this, we open spaces that do support everyone else. Because just like Lachey and Brianna were talking about, like, people have to see themselves in us as leaders to be able to open the doors for themselves as well. And it's not just about permission, it's about just doing and learning through that and being able to have enough confidence, or not, and fall on your face and be okay with it, to keep going.
Amazing. How do you successfully drive change then, in terms of team and role changes or promotions?
I think whenever possible, be the person that opens the door for other people. Like, be that woman in the room who speaks up for the woman who isn't in the room. If you're comfortable, like, bring their name up when it comes time to refer for a promotion or for a new job. I think also transparency, I've noticed, has been huge, like, in my career growth. Transparency with other women, about our salaries, about how we landed certain jobs, about how we communicated, when we were sharing our rates, things like that. Just the more honesty and the more community we can have, that's been crucial for me.
And I think if there's any, males here on our like at the event today, if you have a partner or if you have a daughter or a friend, like, we have to do it with you. We can't do it alone. We just can't. So open the doors, bring them up, talk about promotion. If someone's up for promotion, recommend someone that you think is great. Stand up for us, because the only way that we're going to actually even the playing field is with you on our side and supporting us. And we're years away from truly leveling, but we need our male counterparts to support us. We need our allies.
I love that. We've got another great question I think that fits here. Let me find it again. How have you dealt with difficult coworkers? So in marketing at tech, there are a lot of men who are difficult, might maybe stealing ideas. You get told you're defensive. How would you handle that? Any advice?
Brianna's looking at it like, I got this one.
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah,
Brianna.
like, I just had, like, as I read it, like, a montage of coworkers came through my head. It was like a movie. There's this delicate line, I think, that we can walk really well as women. I'd be curious what you three think of this, where we're able to be direct and call something out, but also be very, like, polite about it. So I got to a point where I was just calling it out. Like, thank you so much for sharing that idea. I know we talked about it on our call last week when I showed you the presentation. Like, thanks for surfacing it now. Like, just bring it to the forefront without, your intention shouldn't be to embarrass them. Your intention should be to reassign, like, ownership of it back to yourself. So that's one tactical way that I started doing it, was just calling it out in a really polite way, and you just smile a lot. And even if nobody says anything on the call, it really does help. Like, it really does help. The worst thing I think you can do is just sit there and take it. Whatever it is, the project, the campaign, a meeting you led, like, if you poured your time and energy into this, you deserve credit for it. Just call it out. That person had no trouble taking it from you, so take it back. And I also think, this is where like mentorship and sponsorship become huge within the organization. Like mentors guide you, sponsors speak your name in rooms you're not in. So the more you can network even within your organization, with higher ups, like get your name out there, just build, connections with them, ask good questions. They'll start to remember you. They'll start to see you as somebody who's proactive and engaged, and they'll be able to stick up for you in those situations too, even if it's not right in that moment. You're just building more of a solid case for yourself.
I love that. Do you have any advice for people who maybe don't have those same opportunities? I know I've been at startups in the past where there are no other marketing leaders kind of in my space. So when I was trying to find mentors or like people to support me, I definitely had to look externally. Any advice for where you can find those resources for others who might be in that situation?
ADP List is huge. I'm pretty sure it's still around. It's a free mentorship platform, and you can find folks in any field, like marketing, sales, product, whatever the case may be. And you can meet with them weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever the case may be, but there's so many leaders in there.
Amazing. We can switch gears just a little bit, like talking about your own journeys. How do you feel now being a woman entrepreneur? What does that mean to you today?
Lishay, I know you're a mom too, and with children, being an entrepreneur gives you power over your time and like your priorities. It doesn't make us less than. I actually think I'm a better entrepreneur because I'm a mother. But I think the best part of it is that we have control over our outcomes, and we can't blame anyone else. It's literally what we put in, we get out. Where we spend our time, we get out. And that's with anything in life, but it's also inclusion of entrepreneurship. And I think that power of having control over our outcomes, how big or small they may be, depending, is really powerful, because once you start to see the work that you do actually reap a reward and not having to be gated by someone else telling you if that's success or not, the empowerment you get from seeing that work is tenfold. And then that actually opens your doors mentally. It's a mindset shift of, oh, I just saw that happen. What if I'm capable of doing this? Well, you likely are. You just now gave yourself permission to say, well, I won that, or I did that, I succeeded in here. Let's try this next one. And then it just keeps compounding. So I think that control over your own outcomes is incredibly powerful as an entrepreneur and as a woman.
What's the original? Because I was really vibing with something Namiki said. What's the original question?
How do you feel? Like, what does it mean to be a woman entrepreneur today?
It means a lot. Like it's hard to encompass that. Like, and again, as a mother of 4, like I think the biggest thing for me is I want my kids to know, like, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. You've seen mommy go from a not so great neighborhood to an amazing neighborhood. They see me go from a smaller house to a bigger house. You know what I mean? Like they went on that journey with me. And I my hope is that they can look at me and say, she was a hard worker, like she was resilient. This is something, and not that they have to be entrepreneurs. Like if they want to go and get a job, like I support them either way. But I think just not letting anybody put them in a box. Like, and I think as women in general, not even women entrepreneurs, like as women in general, we are put in a box. But what I love about entrepreneurship is that it takes us outside of that box. Like we create the boxes, right? Whatever. And then I think in a sense too, it's like, I don't know, it's hard to encompass like what it means. It means so much in every area of life, personal, professional. And again, I think it's important for us to have get-togethers like this one, because we don't know who we're talking to. We don't know what we're going to say in this conversation that's going to spark somebody else to be like, you know what? I like what she said. I want to go do my thing now. So I really think it's about paving the way for the people that are after you. It's not really about you. It's about who you're going to inspire to come after you to be able to maybe make more of a wave than you did, right? It's about letting the next set of people come in and do their thing. But I think it means a lot. It's hope. It's hope for a lot of women. I think if other women see us doing what we're doing, and then it's just a continuous cycle. So if I could condense it down to one word, I think that word is hope. Yeah.
I love that.
I think for me, the word is freedom. Like, yes, financial freedom and freedom to build my days and my calendar how I want, but also freedom to break out of that box, like Lachey was mentioning, or break out of that mold and break out of caring what other people think, and just freedom from worrying so much about, like, am I going to land that next promotion? What am I going to say in this interview? What does my manager think of me? Like, just all of these things, all the like corporate politics, and just focus on building something I'm proud of and building something that enables me to experience that financial freedom it's been amazing.
I love that. While we're talking a little bit about challenges, we've got a great question here. Sabrina asks, how do you manage being authentic in leadership when emotion is often treated as a crutch?
You do have to be strategic in how you use your emotion, at least in what I've seen. You shouldn't be trauma dumping every day, all day about like everything that you're going through as a personal journey. But if there's a way that you can turn your personal journey into power that is used to, incite change or take action on something that you're passionate about, I think emotion actually is really helpful. Showing emotion shows that we're human, and people want to think that we are human and not we're not robots, because we're not. And I actually think that's why women do so well in leadership. And there's statistics that actually show that we outperform. And it's because we're able, that nature versus nurture, we have both, and we're able to use our emotion, but it has to be strategically used in the right ways to be able to connect with your audience, your customers, your peers, to be able to incite change. So I think you should lean into it when it's appropriate.
I think it boils down to intention, like kind of taking it from the opposite angle. I've seen people, men and women, weaponize their emotions to kind of control the outcome of a conversation at work, or to control how they're perceived in a conversation where they don't feel like they're the ones in control. And I do think like there's a part of that comes up for folks. Like, a lot of people do it, like in the workplace. And so I think what's most important is understanding your intention behind sharing your emotions and making sure that it's not overpowering your ability to articulate just the business side of things. Like, how can I use this to strengthen what I'm saying instead of using it to control the conversation?
Yeah, great point, Brianna. I think it's about angles, right? So you can talk about your emotion, but again, what is it rooted in? Is it rooted in, as Nomiki said, trauma dumping, or is it rooted in getting your point across better? And I think about this as an entrepreneur, like how the vulnerability a lot of times that I share, I think about it in that context of like, I'm not sharing it so you can feel sorry for me. I'm sharing it to let you know that you can do the same thing that I did if you are in a similar situation. There's again, going back to the hope thing, like there's a purpose in me sharing the pain that I'm sharing with you. It's not so you can feel sorry for me and no, like it's to let you know that I was here, relatability, like I get where you're coming from, but here's how I got through that, and here are some steps that you can take to get through that yourself. So again, back to Brianna's point, I think it's just like, what's the intent, and then what is the bigger point you are trying to make? It's all about angles. If you can angle that the right way, yeah, I think that's when you're going to be put in the best position. But again, to Nomiki's point, like, don't do it for trauma dumping. Like at that point, we need therapy, which a lot of us do need therapy.
We all do therapy. Therapy is good. Therapy is healthy.
It is. It is. I love that. Thank y'all for being so raw and sharing this. I know it's personal, but it also is so helpful to hear. And I hope that people are getting something out of that too. I'd love to get a little bit more tactical now and talk about what it takes to run your business day to day. Talk a little bit about your marketing strategies too. But first, I'd love to know, what is your like bag of tricks? What's in your utility belt as a founder? What are some things that you wouldn't really feel like you could function without?
Time blocking,
Mm.
if that's where we're going with that. Like my calendar is my pride and joy at this point. It's like a color coded masterpiece, and I live by time blocking. I think especially with the different service offerings that we have at Verbatim, there is a lot of context switching for myself and for my team. And so being able to structure our days in a way that lets us work really efficiently has been crucial.
I need to pick your brain on time blocking. I feel like I need to get
I'd love
better
to.
about that. Because what'll end up happening is I'll go down rabbit holes to do something that I know is a fire, and then I end up getting what I need done, but then I'm working till 1 or 2 in the morning, and I have to like reset for the next day. And I get into that probably once a week that happens. So I
Oh,
do
wow.
need to be better at time blocking. I
We should
have
chat.
thought,
I love
yeah,
talking about
I
it.
definitely need to introduce some of that to protect my time. I have been saying no more. I'm getting better at saying no. And I have to be okay with sometimes saying no to an opportunity that could be really helpful, but to protect my sanity and being able to prioritize the things that are most important. So I don't know if that's a tactic that you're looking for in my bag, but last year was my year of yes. And I literally said, this is my year of yes. I say yes to everything because I am taking everything as a learning, and I need to be able to be the ultimate sponge and digest all the things. And then I got into this place where I was like, okay, I have enough data. Now I need to be more strategic with my outcomes and what I'm going to say yes to. And so I've gotten a lot better about that. But also to, like Lachey, I'm also a mom of 4, and like, we don't have that much time. We have to be really careful of how we use it so that we don't, inflict pain in other parts of our lives. And so, yeah, I think the saying yes is really great when you're early on, but getting to that point where you can start saying no is super helpful.
Yeah, like I gotta play on what both of you said. Brianna, like time blocking, huge. I don't time block as well as I would like to. So yeah, I'm gonna have to come to you for some of
We should
that.
do a session, the 3 of us.
We should, because I am a horrible, oh my God,
I need
time
help.
blocker.
Yeah.
I love it.
And Nomiki, to your point of saying no, yes, that was something that was difficult for me to do on a psychological level.
Yeah.
Because when you come from struggle, it's like everything that comes across to you, you're like, yes, yes, yes. Oh, I'm so grateful for you even considering me. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, it's like you said, I have enough
breaks.
data points. Yes, I gotta pick and choose where my time goes. One thing that I have been testing out is theme days. So, and again, I think this is extra important when you have a family, because it's you just cannot be at the computer all the time, and it's hard. Like Namiki, when you said you're up until like 1 or 2 in the same, theming the days. So like it's like time blocking, but at a more macro scale. So like I don't take any calls on Mondays. I don't take any calls on Fridays. On Tuesdays are this type of call. On Wednesdays is only these types of calls. So like theming it that way has helped quite a bit. But for sure, like you got to learn how to say no. And now again, it depends where you're at. Like if you're in the beginning and you're hustling for it and you're like, use it as a learning experience. But again, Namiki, like you said, once you gather those data points, like then you need to assess and understand, like, okay, is this aligned with where I'm trying to go, what I'm trying to do? Is this person going to give me a $50,000 deal, but I got to take calls for 4 hours on Mondays? And it might not be worth it. You know what I mean? Like you really have to self-assess and be self-aware of like what you want. And that takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. But for sure, like saying no, as you said, and like, I think everything together, saying no, time blocking, and theming your days, triple threat, Yeah.
Well, and to your point too, that's making me think of something else is the ability to think short term and long term. Like a specific client is coming to mind who, first of all, it took me a long time to charge what I actually should be charging. I undercharged for a very long time. And with this specific client, though, I made the decision to charge them less than we normally would because of all the doors that I knew they would open for us, all the people that they would introduce us to, and the amount of revenue that's been attributed to that client and those referrals just vastly outweighs whatever we would have charged them at the beginning. And so I use that example as like, especially when you're first starting your business, it's going to look a little different, right? I said yes to just about everything because you need money and that's okay. And everybody's situation is different. But as you continue to gather that data, don't just think about like what this could impact now, but how this will impact you in a year or 2 years and how that actually aligns with your long-term goals.
I love that. I feel like y'all talked on data, kind of data-backed decisions versus those gut feelings. What advice would you give on balancing that? How do you trust your instincts without data? What does that look like for you?
I treat everything as a hypothesis if I don't have data to back it up. So this is what here's what I'm trying to prove or disprove. And the decisions I make for the next, I don't know, X amount of time, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, are either going to help me prove that or disprove that. And I'm going to make a decision at the end of this experiment. That's with marketing campaigns and that's with ideas I have for the business. And the nice thing about that is if you're framing it as a hypothesis, you're also going to be able to start seeing like how you can trust your intuition and how you can trust your gut. That's helped me a lot even before I went out on my own.
I do the same thing, Brianna, but I time block them in 30-day increments. And I usually have like a bigger test that I'm running based on things that I've learned. So a hypothesis that I'm like, now I have 30 days. I really want to test this. And I'm going to put all my eggs, not all, maybe like 80% of my eggs into this basket to test something that I have high conviction for. And then all the rest of my 20% is used on smaller, more minor things so I can learn over time. And I've been doing that for, I think, 17 months. And every month I have it in a sheet where I can then go look so that my experiments actually get stronger every month over time. And so I think there's a way to test your hypothesis in micro scales too, if you're earlier on, that you can gather enough data, but also learn about like, well, how risky are you? Do you have conviction that something that you've done before can work? All that information is going to help you feel confident in making it. And not all of my experiments work, but what I find is if you shoot for a larger outcome, then you probably know you'll reach, you're more likely to hit a higher number or a higher performance metric than if you didn't do it. So I am big on measuring everything because a lot of times if you don't measure and you don't look at it, you forget things and you can't see patterns more clearly. So I have OCD, so I track everything, and it's helped in a lot of ways. And it's also, there's a detriment to some capacities, but I love the hypothesis.
Yeah, same. I wish there was a little bit more method to my madness. Mine is just like, so even with the company I'm building now, it's like, there are going to be a lot of different pathways for people to take in terms of education. There are lots of different offers. So I very much of the same, Nomiki, where it's like, hey, I'm going to try this thing out and I will create some sort of validation point. At this point, it's interest first and then it's money. Nothing validates something quicker than somebody giving you money in your hand to say, I like this thing. People can love it all day long. Like, oh, it's so super cool. This is amazing. Money is the validator. Now, that might not always be the case for people that are early. You might just want interest at first. But if you are at a point in the business where it's like, okay, people think my thing is cool. I have an audience that's amazing. Like, money is the validation point. And then if it's successful, I'll roll it out bigger. If it's not, I'll pull it back, reposition slightly, and then push it back out. So I think it's just about having like these sprint periods. And again, Nomiki, to your point where it's like, I don't know if my sprint periods are like 30 days, if it's 40 days, typically it's around like that 30-day mark where I'm just like quickly moving, something doesn't work, pull it back, reposition it slightly, put it back, and just keep tweaking and testing until you find that messaging or that positioning that hits, and then you run along with it. I think that's the way I've been able to build 2 different consultancies at this point. It's just like rapid feedback, very tight feedback loops, quick iteration. Don't spend too long on something that is not working. And just because the thing is not working doesn't mean it's not working in totality. It could be a positioning thing or a messaging thing or whatever that thing is, but rapid iteration and tight feedback loops. In Omiki, like you said, in 30-day increments tends to, and this is like me dissecting, because I could not have answered this question otherwise. I got to like think back and dissect how I do the thing, but that's how I do that. Yeah. And again, at this point, money is the validation point. Again, if you are earlier in the journey, it could be interest, and then that interest then turns into money. But yeah, a lot of the same for me as well on that. Yeah.
I love that. How do you prioritize building your messaging and positioning when you're still learning what your strengths are as an entrepreneur or as a business? Are there like those similar types of tests, or what's your strategy for that?
I use social media. It's the fastest validator to see if something lands. A TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, all different communities. I obviously target the same customer in all of them, but the communities are different in all of them, and the way that they react is different. And social media is free marketing, and it's instantaneous. You don't have to spend money on putting something out there to test. So like in a lot of my posts, I'll test a new pitch or a different way of using different words to see if people understand it better, if people like that, or if that excites people. Engagement is really a validator for me on when I'm testing things. Are people excited about this, or did I incite rage, like how I'm saying things? And so if I were you, and a lot of early stage founders, we don't have money. Free marketing, social media is free marketing, and they're very fast, and you can get results immediately. And you can do like 10 in a day, and no one's going to judge you for it.
Yep.
Well, maybe LinkedIn will judge you for it, but the other platforms will not.
Well, remember, we just told them to not give a shit about what people think about them. So that ties back into that part.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Amazing. And I have a question too on tools. What should founders avoid buying too early? What tools actually matter for you kind of in the phase that you're at right now?
I will say first, don't buy too many at once. The last thing you want is a bloated tech stack for no reason, and then half of your revenue is going towards these tools that you use like once a year. Just stay lean as much as possible and focus on what you need in the moment. Maybe this is the operational side of me, but whether or not you plan on scaling your company, it's going to scale in some way, whether it's your systems, your client roster, whatever. So focus on building scalable systems and setting up a tool, or choosing a tool that will allow you to do that, like a project management platform. That would be the first one I recommend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be the first person to say the AI word. God, I didn't want to be the first person. But if we're talking about tools, so to Brianna's point, like build that infrastructure first. Where people go wrong with the AI thing is like they think the AI is the meal when it's not. It's the sauce, it's the condiment, it's not the thing. Like your process is the thing. AI just makes that process more stronger, quicker, efficient, whatever it is. So build the foundations first, then put AI on top of that. So like for me, as I've been launching this new education company, I've been taking sales calls for my SaaS product. And what I would do is those sales calls, what I'll do is I'll put it in Claude and then prompt it and say, what are the most common pain points that I'm getting on these calls, right? And then I take that information and work it back into my positioning, right? So it's like, AI isn't, it's as good as your systems are. If your systems are terrible, AI is going to be terrible. You cannot have a shit foundation and then put AI on top of that. You cannot do it. You've got to do the due diligence at first. And then once you have a good awareness of that, then you can understand where AI fits in those gaps from that point. So I'll say AI, but again, having a system and a process stops you from going down the AI rabbit hole, because it's like, oh, this AI tool for this and this and this and that. Understand your process first, then include AI afterward. Yeah.
And honestly, early stage, the majority of things you can do is all in Google Drive. Just Sheets, docs, just be lean, just like Brianna was saying. Like, you don't need HubSpot on day one. You just don't. Though I like HubSpot. I'm just saying.
I love that. I'd love to talk a little bit about your legacies, what you're building for before we move on to some questions. So first, how are you balancing building a company culture that balances being human-centered, but also one that hits revenue goals and makes money too?
I found that my team shows up with more like energy and excitement when they know that they're valued and taken care of as humans first. I think I'm thinking about this a lot lately because I'm planning on hiring quite a bit in 2026. And that's one thing I don't want to lose is this, like our team is just, it sounds weird to say, but it's just very human. Like we balance the work and the personal really well. And I think where a lot of leaders fall short with that is just overthinking it. Like, how would you want to be treated if you were the employee and not the person leading the company? Um, and how would you want to be cared for as a team member, as an employee? I think that's the question I try and ask myself, even from the day to day. Like, okay, this employee is going through this. How would I want my manager to react to me and treat me in this moment? And then you just reflect that back to them.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, I only have one team member, so we're really small. But every morning we check in, we do our stand up, and then one of them is where can we support it? So like we say, what do we work on? What are we blocked on? Where can we support one another? And literally this morning, the one was mental. I'm like, okay, let's take a break. Because we're dealing with a bug that is taking 7 days to figure out. And it's like, all right, well, let's take a step back. How can we actually do this without you being overwhelmed? Because, that pressure amounts. And well, of course we want performance. It's also important to be like, all right, how can we help in this space? Even if I'm not technical and I can't engineer, there's probably something I can do. I might know someone that can help. I might be able to do some research that maybe you didn't think of, or there's always ways that you can, be involved without just being like the boss, I guess. I hate that. I hate being the boss. Like, I'm your teammate. Like, yes, I'm the leader of a company, but like, we're in this together.
Yeah, I love that. I think I have gotten the blueprint from all the people that I have worked with prior, and I'm just like, just do the opposite of that. Like
Preach.
what type of company would I want to work for? Like, what were all the things I hated when I was in house that people said to me, that people did to me, that people made me feel like? So for me right now, it's me and a CTO. So pretty similar to Mika, where it's just small 2-person team. But as I think about expansion, I'm big on culture. I'm very big on culture, not the whole, oh, we're a family type of thing, but more of like, I know your life is bigger than what we're doing here. And that is okay. That is okay. Somebody can still love their job and not have to think about it 24/7. I want the people that work for me to take breaks, mental health days, all the things that I had wanted when I was in house is what I want to embody in a company, in a culture. So I think about it like that. We'll see as stuff grows. But yeah, I just think about like, do the exact opposite that everybody did to me and start there. Yeah.
I love that strategy.
And I don't know if this is a spicy take, maybe it is, but like I think self-awareness is key too. And what I mean by that is like I don't have kids. Verbatim is my baby. I do not expect any of my team to care as much about Verbatim as I do. Like that's just how it is. And I think in a lot of my past roles, I worked for very lean teams. So I was typically reporting like directly to the CEO or sometimes the CMO. And it's like they expected that from me. They thought I was going to be just as invested as they were. And I think the more we recognize that they're not going to be, and that's okay, the less transactional the relationship actually becomes, which sounds counterintuitive. But remembering that, like as you hire and as you lead a team, has helped me a lot.
I love that. As someone who's been like the first marketer or the only marketer at a startup and reporting to the CEO, I've had that same expectation of you have to be here as long as I am and do as much as I do. And it's hard to not fall into that if you're someone who's passionate about what you do. But I think the perspective that y'all have on hiring and bringing in people and just supporting them as humans, like I think that's just the best you can do in any of the situations. I love that.
Yep.
I'd love to dig into some of the questions that we have in the last few minutes here. One of them is from Gada. How can men support the mission of female empowerment?
Platform. If you have an opportunity to put a woman on a platform or to refer her or to it can be the smallest thing. Like in sometimes I think a lot of people are very unconscious of like how they do things. Like if you can bring that to the forefront, think about, so the same question you asked, think about that when you are in those meetings, when you are referring people, when you're doing whatever you're doing, it could be the smallest thing that will change somebody's entire life. And real quick, like I like to use this example of Dave Gerhardt, so who runs Exit 5. I had reached out to him in maybe like April of 2023, very unknown. Nobody knew who I was, still super small on LinkedIn. And I asked him, could I be on his podcast? And he said, yeah, sure. And mind you, white male, you know what I mean? Like that one podcast changed my entire life. It could take one thing that you do to change somebody's entire life. So like think about that again when you're in those meetings, when you're referring people, when you're doing just take the opportunity to be able to push a woman forward. We're not saying like, oh, if you feel like genuinely it's not the right fit, then fine. But I think just be conscious of it in conversation, in daily interaction, whatever that looks like, just make it a thought. And then when the time presents itself, that's when you move on that. But you never know how you're going to impact somebody's life with just one thing that you do.
I think just being conscious of that. Like I pitched last night into a room and I was staring in the devil's face. It was all men. And I'm talking about a women business supporting women and me spewing stats out. Everyone was like, I didn't know that. And the one guy was like, I was definitely thinking, 1.2% in 2025 go to women. He was like, I was definitely not expecting that. I thought maybe it was like 20 or 25%. And after I had all these questions. And I think generally men don't mean to like be evil, right? Like they're not, but they are naive and they're not educated and no one's telling them how they can do it. So I think if we are continuing to want them to be our partners and supporters and allies, we also need to educate them on like, here are different ways that you can actually help me. And when they ask, how can I help? You give them things to help with. Don't just say, okay, thank you for letting me know. You literally give them a list, because the only way that's going to happen is if we stand up for ourselves and give them options to, put our name in different rooms while we're not there.
Amazing. We have this question from Sophia. She's asking, what's the most rebellious thing that you've done in your business that no one clapped for but changed everything?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. What's the most rebellious thing that you've done in your business that no one clapped for but changed everything?
Well, I can't share the most rebellious, but I can share the second most rebellious, which was I was told to niche down for a very long time, like from the moment I launched Verbatim. I didn't want to, candidly. I was scared of it. Like I thought I was going to put myself into this box and like lose out on a ton of money and all these opportunities. And to me, it felt rebellious to, like, I eventually did niche down. I did not niche down in the way people were telling me to. I didn't niche down by industry. We niche down by service offering and like type of team, like size of team, essentially. And we actually niche down more around mindset, like how they're approaching influencer marketing and what their thoughts are on building a team that supports influencers. And I will say, like, niching down is a huge way to, accelerate your business, but it is important to find a way to do it that feels authentic to your company. So I don't know, that felt rebellious to me.
I just realized I'm muted. I love that. There's another great question here. I know many women who have an idea but don't know how to technically develop it. Do you have any tips for them getting started?
I mean, this is like made for me. Well, first of all, there's tools at your disposal that you can build anything. And I think that that's actually a trap in some ways because anyone can have an idea and anyone can actually go develop it. There's like Lovable, Replit, Cursor. There's dozens of them all over the place. Bolts, Replit, etc. Those tools are amazing. Anyone can build anything. But I think the biggest mishap that people realize that it's not actually the building part that actually earns you money in your pocket. It's solving a problem for a very specific audience. So similar to what Brianna was saying, like actually niching down to someone that you can solve that problem for and validating it with a solution that someone says, I'm ready to pay money for it. So my tips are less around tech specifically, because the tools are out there, but actually finding the problem that people say, I'll pay for that tomorrow or right now. Here's my cash.
Amazing. I love that. I feel like that's the perfect question to end on. Thank you all for joining, and thank you, Nomiki, Lachey, and Brianna, for sharing your stories and your challenges. This has been amazing. For everyone here today, we're going to send some follow-up emails shorter or later on today with everyone's LinkedIn, so you can follow along their journeys. And we'll also share more details about our book giveaway featuring Brianna's new book, The Unapologetic Professional. We're super excited about that too. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.